God didn't just let you walk away from that toxic situation. He pulled you out like a firefighter carrying someone from a collapsing building. You didn't stumble out by chance or weakness. You were deliberately removed for your safety, removed for your growth. The moment you stepped away, the balance shifted. Everything in their world began to unravel, not because you were fragile, but because they were feeding off your energy, your stability, your strength. They thought they broke you, but the truth is they were merely witnessing your transformation. And now, without your presence, the structures they built on manipulation and deceit are crumbling. You were never meant to stay where your light was merely tolerated or taken for granted. God plants His chosen where they can flourish, not where they are drained. Your silence now is more powerful than any argument, louder than any attempt at control. Everything they relied on you for, the emotional fuel, the unwavering attention, the forgiveness, was never truly theirs to wield. And the absence of it, that absence speaks volumes. You were the one holding the foundation together, and now that you're gone, the illusions they sustained are collapsing under their own weight. Leaving wasn't about weakness or failure. It was about divine intervention. When God removes someone from your life, especially a manipulative, toxic presence, it's never accidental. It's intentional, precise, and protective. You didn't leave because you couldn't handle it anymore. You were removed because you were chosen for something greater, chosen to experience peace, to cultivate purpose, to rise beyond the limitations of their deceit. The heartbreak you felt wasn't a punishment, it was protection. What you interpreted as loss was actually God guarding your potential, shielding you from a cycle that would only drain and diminish you. Think about it, they thrived on your patience, your forgiveness, your strength. They masked their control as affection, their manipulation as love. You were the glue holding their chaos together, the buffer between them and their own insecurities. And yet you stayed, you tried. You sacrificed more than anyone could see, and for a moment it may have felt like it went unnoticed. But God saw every sleepless night, every forgiving gesture, every ounce of effort you gave while they took for granted. He removed you not because you were inadequate, but because you were far too powerful to remain trapped in a cycle that only perpetuated their darkness. That cycle they called love was really addiction. Addiction to drama, to control, to illusion. And now, without you, they are unmasked. Their confidence was borrowed. Their strength depended on yours. The mask slips when the mirror of your absence shows them what they truly are: hollow, unprepared, and dependent on someone else's light to survive. You were the mirror reflecting their better selves, the only one holding space for their growth. But they shattered it, trying to avoid facing their own flaws. They thought you were weak because you endured. Now they realize you were powerful because you finally chose yourself over them. Narcissists don't mourn people, they mourn control. They miss the ability to manipulate, to extract loyalty, to watch someone rebuild only to knock them down again. But this time is different. This time, your silence, your peace, and your growth are louder than their manipulation ever could be. You are no longer participating in their cycle. You don't have to argue, prove, or seek revenge. The very act of living fully, quietly, and authentically without them is your statement. Every day you rise, every moment you reclaim your energy is a reflection of the divine intervention that removed you. God's removal isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's mercy disguised as heartbreak. You may have cried, screamed, and questioned why, but eventually you will see that it was the start of something new. A life where you no longer carry the weight of someone else's darkness. A life where you can heal, evolve, and thrive. A life where your worth isn't measured by their approval or consumption. You are discovering that the greatest freedom isn't revenge or exposure. It's the ability to live fully, to flourish, and to shine without their interference. They didn't lose just anyone. They lost someone who prayed for them, forgave them, and gave more than they ever deserved. They lost access to your light, your grace, your loyalty. And now they face the consequences of their actions without the one who once absorbed the brunt of their chaos. Their suffering is real, though they may never admit it. They are learning the hard way that what they thought they controlled is no longer within their reach. Your absence is shaking the foundations of everything they built on deception and entitlement. You were never too much. You were never broken beyond repair. You were too real, too loving, and too aware for someone who survives in shallow pretense. You asked for honesty, consistency, and genuine connection, things they were incapable of giving. Real requires accountability and vulnerability. It requires a depth they couldn't mirror because they were too invested in their illusions. Your decision to walk away at full volume, fully yourself, echoes louder than any manipulation could. It reverberates through the empty structures they tried to maintain. Your authenticity, your loyalty, your love cannot be replaced by any mask, any charm, any facade. The confidence they flaunt is hollow. The smiles they post are just veneers. The life they try to portray is a performance, nothing more. You were the safe space they never earned. You were the foundation they leaned on without regard. And now, with you gone, every pretense they held is crumbling. They don't fear losing you. They fear losing the control you provided. That is what they grieve. Your strength, your clarity, your choice to stop sacrificing yourself for someone incapable of genuine love is what shakes them, and you didn't even need to prove it to them. The proof is in your life, your peace, and your continued rise. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to change. You are not obligated to remain broken to prop up someone else's illusion of wholeness. You were never too sensitive, too strong, or too real. You were simply too authentic for someone who survives on borrowed light and deception. And by leaving, you have given yourself the freedom to be whole, to grow, and to flourish in a life aligned with your purpose. Every day, every choice to protect your energy, every moment of peace you claim is a declaration. You are chosen, you are protected, and you are destined for more than what they could ever give or take away. Your silence, your peace, your growth, they speak louder than any words ever could. God has removed you from what diminishes you, not to punish you, but to elevate you. And that elevation, that power, that freedom, they are undeniable. The person who once relied on you will never truly replace what they lost, because nothing superficial can replicate authenticity. You were the real thing. And now, in your absence, the truth of your worth, the power of your spirit, and the strength of your soul are undeniable. You walked away at full volume, and that choice, more than anything else, is the revolution. Your healing is loud, your strength is undeniable, and your life is the proof that divine intervention works in your favor. You are not diminished, and nothing they do can replicate what you brought into the world. You are authentic, you are strong, and your peace is a force they cannot touch. They will feel your absence, even if they cannot admit it, because you were never just someone. They were dependent on your light, your grace, and your unwavering presence. And now, having reclaimed all of it, you are free, you are powerful, and you are unstoppable. So when you stopped reacting, when you stopped engaging, when you stopped explaining your worth to someone committed to ignoring it, that's when the house of cards began to collapse. That's when the empire they built on charm and manipulation began to tremble, because your presence had been the glue holding it together, and now your absence is the storm breaking through the cracks. And here's a truth most people won't admit. Yes, they're hurting. Not because they lost love, but because they lost control. Not because they feel remorse, but because they lost someone they once took for granted, and now they don't recognize themselves without someone to manipulate emotionally. They're hollow, not because they miss you, but because their identity depended on dominating people like you. People who love deeply, people who strive for truth, people who seek growth, healing, and elevation. When you left, they weren't just abandoned, they were exposed to the reality of who they truly are, with no one left to hide behind. That's what's really disintegrating. Don't let their silence deceive you. Don't let social media highlight reels mislead you. Don't let fake glow-ups or new relationships make you doubt your decision. Beneath it all, they feel your absence like a shadow that won't leave their side. It haunts them, not because they truly loved, but because they exploited you masterfully. That sting of losing someone they never valued but continuously benefited from is their karma. Losing the one who would have stayed, prayed, and forgiven if only they'd been willing to change. It's a mirror reflecting back at them with no distractions. So don't go back. Don't dilute yourself to fit into a relationship built on control. Don't allow nostalgia or memories to make you forget the reality of your pain. That wasn't love. It was a transaction, a spiritual drain cloaked in sweet words and stolen emotions. And you survived. You're healing. You're rising. That is your victory. That is your power. That is what they never anticipated you would discover without them. They thought you needed them to be whole, but the truth is, the moment either of you stepped away, you began to become whole for the first time. You reclaimed your mind. You retrieved your heart from someone who never knew how to hold it. You chose growth. You chose peace. You chose God's voice over manipulation. And that choice, your elevation, shakes their core. When God removes you, it isn't merely about taking you from something toxic. It's about positioning you into something divine. That is exactly what is next for you. They thought they had endless time, but that's always the trap with narcissists. They assume they have unlimited chances to disrespect you, to manipulate your heart, to rely on your forgiveness. They believed your love was infinite, your patience unending, and your commitment unshakable. But what they never anticipated was God rewriting the narrative. When God says enough, it's absolute. No negotiation, no second chances. He doesn't remove you from the storm unless he intends to use you to part the seas. They didn't just lose a person, they lost favor. They lost blessings they could never comprehend, grace they never acknowledged, patience they mistook for weakness, and now, without you, they wander in emotional drought, searching for a well they themselves poisoned. That's what drives them when they try to come back. Not love, not connection, but the energy and light you once carried, even when they sought to diminish it. Now, with God positioning you higher, there's nothing left for them to grasp. Just silence, just distance. Just consequences, and yes, they feel it. The attention they craved is gone. The admiration they were addicted to is gone. The one who made them feel significant is gone. And now they are exposed. Their facade no longer shields them. Without you propping them up emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, they face their own emptiness. The void they tried to fill with your love is still there, echoing louder, because the one who truly cared, truly saw them, and believed in their potential has walked away with dignity. You didn't just leave, you elevated. You grew spiritually. You strengthened mentally. You healed emotionally. You became the version of yourself they tried to suppress, and they can't touch you. Not because you're hiding, but because you're standing firmly in a light they cannot endure. That is the punishment. That is the ultimate revenge. Not anger, not retaliation, but peace, holistic transformation. That silent shift from survival to sovereignty shatters their illusion of control. They were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of you realizing your worth, because once you recognize it, all their leverage disappears. No more guilt trips, no more emotional manipulation, no more empty apologies wrapped in future promises. Losing control over you strikes at the very foundation of who they believe themselves to be. Narcissists define themselves by control. When you reclaim your power, you dismantle the image they meticulously constructed. They scramble, they post, they boast, they try to charm someone new, hoping to conceal the void, but it doesn't work. Shadows lengthen when real light departs, and you were that light. Nothing they chase now satisfies, because it's never been about love. It's been about image. It's been about proving to the world they remain desired and dominant. But it's hollow. They know it. You weren't ordinary. That kind of loyalty is rare. That grace is irreplaceable. That spiritual alignment comes only once. When it's gone, it's gone. They tried to dismantle what they never understood, you. You were never there to fuel their ego. You were a divine assignment, a mirror of healing and growth. They shattered the mirror because confronting themselves was too painful. And now, instead of evolving, they unravel piece by piece. Once God withdraws his hand of grace from a relationship, decay begins. You were that grace. That's why you couldn't stay. Remaining would have cost you your sense of self, your worth, your peace. God said, "No, my child is not meant for bondage." So he pulled you away in quiet moments, in silent prayers, when hope felt strangled, not to punish you, but to heal you. Now you stand on the other side, wiser, stronger, gentler, but with an unbreakable spine. The scars remain, but they are sacred, proof of survival, proof that you didn't merely endure. You transformed your ordeal into wisdom. As you rise, do not look back, not from bitterness, but from reverence for your journey. Do not return to the pain God lifted you from. Do not entertain apologies that reopen wounds. Peace is not something to beg for. It is something to protect. What you have found, clarity, stillness, divine power, is yours by design. They crumble slowly, quietly, inevitably, because no one walks away from divine love unchanged. They didn't just lose someone, they lost protection, covering, favor. Their darkness hidden in shadows is now falling apart in the light. The hardest realization wasn't leaving. It was understanding that they never truly saw you, not as God sees you, not as you saw them. You gave love from the depths of your soul, where loyalty and sacrifice are sacred. To them you were a utility, a battery, a mirror. When you stopped fueling their illusion, they called you selfish. When you healed, they called you cold. When you set boundaries, they labeled you bitter. That is the projection of a narcissist. They cannot reflect, they only distort. And now, having taken your power, your peace, your self-respect, and your growth, you are free. Free from manipulation, free from deceit, free from someone who could never love fully or see your true worth. Every moment of quiet, every breath of peace, every step forward in your divine purpose is a testament to your strength. You were never too much. You were always enough. You were never wrong for loving deeply or expecting real connection. And now, with your heart, mind, and spirit fully reclaimed, you are untouchable. Your silence, your assent, your sovereignty, it is the ultimate reality they cannot rewrite. You are the real light. You are the rare soul, and nothing they do can ever replace the truth of who you are. They deflect. They refuse to accept the truth. They twist it to protect their lies. And in their falsehood, they were always the victim and you were always the problem. But truth doesn't vanish just because they covered it with charm. It doesn't disappear just because they tarnish your name. Truth lingers, waits patiently, and always returns to claim its place. That's exactly what's happening now. Slowly, deliberately, their world is unraveling thread by thread. Not because you cursed them, not because you attacked them, but because the shield your presence provided is gone. Your prayers once buffered their consequences. Your love once softened their failures. Your compassion once delayed their karmic lessons. But now there is no buffer, no cushion, no more grace for abuse masquerading as personality. They told everyone you were the unstable one, dramatic, overly sensitive, too emotional. But they never disclosed how they triggered that pain. They never admitted how they gaslit you in endless circles, twisted conversations into mazes of confusion, made you doubt your own perception. They left out the manipulation, the control, the isolation. They told only half the story, making sure you appeared to be the villain. But here's the divine twist. They never expected this. God writes the final chapters, and He never forgets the details. While they spin their fabricated stories, God reveals the truth. While they portray themselves as innocent, their fruit is rotting in plain sight. They believed their mask would protect them forever, but no mask survives the weight of divine exposure. Now that you're gone, the cracks are visible. The people they once impressed are beginning to question. The lies they relied on to control the narrative are collapsing. When you remove God's chosen from a life, you remove the blessing that came with them, and you, without a doubt, were the blessing. Even broken, tired, or doubting yourself, you were the best thing they never valued. Rare, and rare is always missed, especially when what follows is counterfeit. They tried to replace you, imitate the bond, replicate the story using the same blueprint. But divine connections cannot be duplicated. You can copy a shell, mimic behavior, but the spirit cannot be replicated. That's what they lost, your spirit, your presence, which made them feel complete even while empty. Your mercy, given even when they offered manipulation. Your light, even when they cast shadows. And now, that absence is deafening. It resonates in quiet moments, burns behind every forced smile, echoes through every empty interaction. You've changed, transformed. The version of yourself that begged for attention, that explained endlessly to someone unwilling to understand, no longer exists. That version was consumed by fire, and from the ashes arose someone powerful, clear, connected to a purpose greater than pain. You stopped fixating on their potential and started observing patterns. You stopped clinging to empty promises and began honoring your peace. You stopped breaking yourself into pieces to make others whole. That shift was spiritual, surgical, sacred. Healing doesn't mean you stop loving, it means you stop abandoning yourself for their sake. Now you've reclaimed your voice, your space, your boundaries. You've learned to sit in silence without craving noise. You've learned to be alone without loneliness. You've discovered that true peace is not absence, it is presence, presence of truth. And the truth is simple. They never deserved your love. Not because they couldn't change, but because they wouldn't. They chose comfort over character, ego over accountability, control over connection, and you finally chose yourself. Now they watch from a distance, behind shadows and fake profiles, observing your growth like a show they cannot turn off. They despise it, not because you're better, but because they didn't contribute to your progress. They wanted to be the hero, but they were the villain. They wanted to be your source, but they were the storm. Now they understand what they lost. Not just a partner, not just a friend, but a covering, a divine presence, a light. That loss lingers. It sits in the back of their mind like a song that won't stop playing, because once someone has experienced the real, the counterfeit can never satisfy. Do not second guess the separation. Do not question the silence. Do not grieve what God has already freed you from. This is more than recovery. It is resurrection. The moment you stopped surviving chaos and started thriving in your calling. The moment you realized that the ultimate revenge is peace. Not showing them what they lost, but becoming untouchable in ways they can never comprehend. Every step you take now is into freedom they cannot fathom. God removed you for a reason, and what they overlooked is now beyond their reach. You felt the peace that comes not from vengeance, but from moving forward. The clarity that hits differently when you stop seeking closure in places that only delivered confusion. That unwavering knowledge that you were never the problem. You were the blessing incarnate, the lesson they refused to learn, the mirror they shattered to avoid confronting themselves. And now as they spiral, scramble for attention, and search for new energy to exploit, you are rising quietly, consistently, with scars that speak truth and eyes that no longer fall for deception. You are not who you once were, and that reality is consuming them from the inside. Narcissists do not regret losing you until your glow no longer illuminates their world, until your silence becomes the loudest presence in their life, until every shallow smile, every fabricated connection, every new person they manipulate leaves them feeling emptier than the last. Make no mistake, they know deep down that they had someone rare, divinely positioned, not to play a role, but to elevate, to transform, to teach what love genuinely is. Yet they chose ego, they chose pride, they chose manipulation over vulnerability, power over partnership, games over growth. Now they are left with the echo of what could have been. You are not meant to return. You are not meant to water a garden God told you to stop planting in. When God removes you, it is spiritual, not emotional. Your spirit recognized it long before your mind accepted it. That is why you felt drained in their presence, why you cried more than laughed, why you questioned your worth despite giving your all. Your soul was screaming for freedom before your feet found the door. Now that you've walked through it, now that you are standing in your power, you understand the truth. You didn't just lose them, you found yourself. They underestimated that. They assumed you needed them to breathe, to feel loved, to validate your existence. But what you needed was time to unlearn their lies, to remember yourself, to heal the parts of you they convinced were broken. Now that you've had that time, you are no longer easily deceived. You are no longer desperate for attention. Breadcrumbs no longer satisfy because you have tasted real peace. And though they pretend otherwise, they sense the shift. They feel your energy withdrawing, your light no longer illuminating their path. They feel your absence like hunger in a frigid night. They may never admit it, even to themselves. The torment isn't that you left, it's that you never returned. After every guilt trip, every manipulation, every fake apology, you chose silence, you chose boundaries, you chose God. That choice shattered their illusion because their power depended entirely on your willingness to believe them. Now that you see clearly that power is gone, when a narcissist loses control, they lose their identity. Everything they were depended on you. Their confidence borrowed your praise. Their sense of security relied on your sacrifice. Their joy depended on your suffering. Now, having reclaimed your soul, their world is cracking. The mask is slipping. The truth is catching up. Let them lie. Let them pretend. Let them post curated happiness. God sees all in the dark, the manipulations, the twisted love, the deceit, and all is being accounted for. Not by your hand, not by revenge, but by justice, divine order, by the same God who pulled you out of the fire and positioned you to rise. You don't need to be the judge. You don't need to serve as the jury. You just need to keep rising, keep healing, keep walking in the light that they once tried to dim, because now your peace is louder than their slander. Your glow is brighter than their smear campaigns. Your joy is untouchable. That is what truly breaks them. That is what haunts them in ways they cannot admit. Not what you said, but what you endured. Not what you posted, but how you moved forward without needing validation or proof. That kind of resilience cannot be faked. That kind of transformation cannot be denied. It radiates naturally. It communicates volumes. It exposes all that they tried to mask beneath their polished, controlled exterior. And now the people around them are starting to notice. Make no mistake, this journey was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving to yourself that you were always right to expect more, that you were always worthy of respect, that your standards were not too high, that your circle was simply too discerning, that your love was never too much. They were incapable of receiving it. Their inability to understand your worth was their flaw, not yours. Now that you have made peace with this, you are unstoppable, not fueled by anger, but because you are aligned with truth, aligned with purpose, aligned with the version of yourself that refuses to shrink to make others comfortable. They lost access to your heart, to your light, to the version of you that would have given endlessly for loyalty. That access isn't just denied, it's permanently revoked, and they know it. That is why they watch. That is why they send messages. That is why they hover in silence, hoping for a crack, but you won't give them one. You finally understand that your worth was never up for debate. Your soul was never theirs to consume. Your story was never intended to end in their chaos. It was always meant to rise from it. You didn't just survive. They can't take that away from you. You've outgrown them, outshined them, and outlasted their manipulations. Walk forward boldly, with your head held high and your spirit unshaken. Every step is a testament to your growth, a living proof of your divine positioning. While they crumble in the absence of your light, you are walking in the presence of something far greater, a purpose rooted in truth and divinely aligned. Your energy, your transformation, your unwavering sense of self, all of it is a reflection of divine intervention. They cannot replicate it, nor can they reclaim it. Their attempts to regain control, to charm, to manipulate, to re-enter your life are futile, because you are no longer the person they could bend, break, or deceive. Every layer of growth you have achieved, every boundary you have established, every moment of peace you have claimed is proof that you have moved beyond the reach of their toxicity. Your joy is now autonomous, your light self-sustaining. That is the power they feared but never anticipated. They relied on your presence to validate themselves, and without it, their constructed identity falters. You have learned the sacred lesson of detachment without compromise. The lesson that love does not mean sacrificing your soul, that your peace and spiritual alignment matter more than anyone else's attempt to control or diminish you. They will never truly grasp what they had, because it wasn't theirs to begin with. You were a gift, a rare and irreplaceable soul, whose love and loyalty were never transactional but sacred. And now, having reclaimed all that, you shine in ways they can no longer manipulate or suppress. Their admiration, their envy, their empty attempts at reconnection are powerless against the sovereignty you now possess. Your life is no longer dictated by their whims, but by your own purpose, by the divine orchestration of your path. Every interaction you choose, every boundary you maintain, every moment you claim for yourself, signals to them that their power has ended. They thrived on access to your energy, on emotional leverage, on your willingness to forgive and endure. Now, all of that has been withdrawn. And in that withdrawal, they feel something they cannot name: the absence of control, the absence of influence, the absence of the one person who truly mattered. They cannot recreate your spirit, your authenticity, or the sacred energy you contributed to their lives. Your absence is a mirror they cannot face, a reality they cannot rewrite. They are left to confront the hollowness of their own choices, while you flourish in alignment with divine purpose. You've grown beyond the illusions they cultivated, beyond the lies they tried to embed in your mind, Beyond the manipulation, they wield it as love. Your clarity now allows you to recognize patterns, to discern character, and to honor your own worth above all else. You no longer waste energy defending yourself to someone who was never interested in understanding you. You no longer bend to the weight of another's ego. Your love is no longer diluted. Your presence is no longer borrowed. You have reclaimed everything they attempted to steal: your energy, your boundaries, your dignity, and your peace. That reclamation is the foundation of your power, and it is this power, quiet yet undeniable, that ensures they remain unsettled while you continue to rise. You no longer need to prove your value to anyone. You no longer seek affirmation from those incapable of genuine connection. Your journey is now defined by self-respect, alignment, and divine favor. Every day you walk in light, every step grounded in truth, is a demonstration of sovereignty that they can neither diminish nor replicate. They will continue to attempt to assert control, to manipulate, to charm, to create illusions of relevance in your life, but their efforts are meaningless. You are no longer participating in their narratives. You are no longer a character in their drama. You are the author of your own story, guided by purpose, guided by divine wisdom, guided by peace. And so walk boldly, walk free, walk knowing that the peace, clarity, and power you possess are not dependent on their recognition, approval, or presence. You are untouchable in your sovereignty. You are radiant in your authenticity. You are elevated in your alignment with the divine. While they crumble in the absence of what they took for granted, you flourish in the fullness of what was always meant for you. You don't need to fight, explain, or prove. You simply need to continue rising, because your light is uncontainable, your joy unassailable, and your life, crafted by divine design, is a testament to everything they could never understand, everything they could never replicate, and everything they can never regain.